Do you mind if I put the sweater on?
Oh, please go ahead.
Well, if asked what I've accomplished in these years, which are like 55 or so, 56 years, I'm afraid I stumble up short to feel like the, the big dreams about augmenting the human intellect just never seem to catch on in the world.
But you do, I mean, you have to admit you managed to do a few things.
Like
I know
what?
your dream is vast, but what do you feel you've actually managed to do?
Well, a long, long, long time ago, I added the mouse as a toy to the world, and I don't know how much of the uh, facilities that are now accessible on the web, quite a few of the ones that we learned how to do, etc., that were valuable, did not get accepted. And the ones that I've felt the proudest of, just basic linkages, well, that caught on. Ted Nelson would have did a lot about getting that idea up. The kind of implementation of it that, for instance, we had that.
But what have you done? What has happened of yours? Only positive right now.
Well, I guess the things I've been preaching about, how interactive use on a web could really boost collective IQ. I think a lot of that's been happening, and it's very difficult for me to point to any particular parts that wouldn't have been done without me. But anyway, it's sort of gratifying to be part of such a big, important revolution.
Why do you think flexible views are so important?
Well, that one of the things that I got excited about very early was thinking about how the computer, carefully coordinated control of the computer in reading materials, that you could start using different options that otherwise, other than for the technology, would not be available. And for instance, just to have a way to quickly set up a control option that within a few seconds is what it'll give you just the first line of every paragraph instead of the whole material. And this was the first thing we tried, and it proved to be extremely useful, that you then could scan very easily down to a document and start seeing where it was relevant to what you were interested in. And then you could change it to show me the first two, or show me everything, or only show me those paragraphs with certain content. So the viewing options just grew that were very valuable.
Okay.
If some youngster were to ask me, why do I think it's important still to keep going to work every day, pursuing what I'm pursuing, I guess all I could answer is that the world has just not seemed to pick up the kind of highly focused concern about how you could really boost the speed and comprehension with which people could work on complex documents and get the understanding and the interactions between them, and actually get some structured analysis of the way they could just show that this question here was thought to be answered there, but over here it was shown to be not the complete answer. Whereas then there were other things that appeared very soon after that that did answer that question, and that it's not something that everybody has access to, but we could make that kind of analysis so that when you read the original document there, you could say, I want to see some certain kinds of flagged inserts, and they pop up to show that there's pointing into this passage, and possibly even who is pointing to it. Oh yeah, I want to go see what that person was saying. Anyway, the whole structure of commentary and argumentation, etc., would be something that would add a lot of value to the growing sort of coherence and completeness of the set of documents that evolved. So I've had that picture for decades of what could be done.
So if someone asked you how they can help and contribute to follow up on your work, what things should they focus on?
I would think that building a community of people that were savvy enough about web usage, etc., that they could all be participating in the evolution of the methodology, of the finesse in which the new aspects of the tools could be brought forward and exercised.
What should this community be focusing on? What should be their mission statement?
I think it's how do you augment our human capability to study and learn from documents to the better. Well, one thing that's been driving me from very far back was the basic need that through, the best we can of putting special symbols together to represent and convey particular information and knowledge and arguments, etc., that was the really fundamental basis on which modern humans have been able to build science and all sorts of things, because the written records, you might call it that. So the evolution of more powerful ways to write it and interlink it and structure it and access it and study it looked to me like anything that could be added and new capabilities in that respect would be immensely important. And the computer and the intercommunication among computers, like the web represents, just provides a huge improvement over the prior stage, which was based on printing and this distribution of printed material. So anyway, it was just, how can we get that evolution in society? Well, I really don't qualify as a really effective historian, but the fascination I had with how humans' communications through all the evolution emerged and went from grunts to words to syntax and sentences, and then the day when you could start getting things recorded on papyrus or skins, and then when printing emerged, which was just a huge impetus then in how people could record and communicate their thoughts. And then when the computer got involved and you could have such effective link that you could be talking about some other passages and to give the reader the option of just jumping right to see what you were talking about in the context in which it was done. So there's much more than that I think is available to pursue that hasn't been.
Then I'll have to close that first. Shoo! Shoo, where are you?
What are you saying too?
I'm just trying to get that bird. I just don't want you to get cold.
Yeah, it's getting cold now.
Are you? Yeah, you do get cold.
Okay.
Your legs are cold.
Or you could sit on my lap.
Right, okay, that was very good historical perspective, but if you can just say, even simpler, words are symbols we communicate with. Try to say it as simply as you can with your language.
To say what?
As simply as you can, words are symbols we communicate with and think with.
Yes. So, in a crude engineering point of view, I would say that words are means of conveying concepts, and that we've gotten more and more flexible as humanity evolved in that you could actually get sentence structure and complex concepts and the whole shading and the way arguments or discussions would evolve. And with the printed word, it just becomes even more powerful. And then commentary on that can give dialogue. And then when the hypermedia sort of appeared in the 60s, this gave a huge advantage to moving ahead in that. And it's an advantage that I somehow feel hasn't been really taken up and capitalized on. There's a group in England, and a friend of mine named Simon Shum was in the center of that actually started making it so that you could structure with actually pointing to different passages, that you're talking about that passage and this one, etc., and had a start for really getting a very strongly integrated way in which you could develop and tie up the knowledge that you're trying to represent and communicate, and also the kind of disagreements and arguments that could flow out of that. So that I just feel like hasn't, I don't see that that's evolved like I feel it could and should.